Just because you hide yours doesn't mean you don't have them.
Howdy folks, and welcome to the Wacky World Drive-In. I'm your more machine than man host, and with me is the more human than human, Dick Vincent.
Hey everybody, welcome aboard for our 6th big episode.
Oh wow, it is number 6, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe how, fast we're racking them up.
Oh, this one might be the season finale.
Okay.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Alright, well, I'd like to start out by asking something that I'm sure has been just burning a hole in the minds of our listeners. Very important personality question for you, Mr. Vincent.
Okay.
Say you're given the chance to be the man that discovers absolute proof of Bigfoot. And with it, you get all the money and the fame, everything that goes with it. But for a full year, you have to wear the Stella Star Crash outfit every single day. Would you do it?
Oh, man.
Well, keep in mind, though, it doesn't have to be the year following the discovery, but it has to be within the next 5 years. And folks, if you don't know the outfit we're referring to, hit pause and go Google or Yahoo Stella Star Crash. You'll know what I mean.
Well, I think if I do have the choice of the next 5 years, I would definitely say yes. Because my plan is at this point that I'd be able to make enough money off the whole Bigfoot phenomenon that I kind of retire by myself and just live a sheltered life for a year while I wear the Stella Star costume. That's my plan.
That was my thinking exactly. That was going to be mine as well.
Yeah, that was the hitch when you said I get to wait 5 years, because I was thinking if I have to wear it immediately after discovering Bigfoot, I don't know if I'd be up for that.
Yeah. Dick, you are a man of mystery. None of us have actually seen you, so you might actually look really good in the outfit.
Believe me, for all the listeners out there, and for you, Rob, you do not want to see me in a Stella Star costume. That would be probably the basis for one of the great horror movies of all time.
Or he's just being modest, and he actually looks like Caroline Munro, just with the Dick Vincent voice.
Oh, man, no. No one in the world looks like Caroline Munro, and I am far from her. And put her and me next to each other in a Stella Star costume, and it would be like, avert your eyes from me, please.
I think I feel a Photoshop project coming up. No.
Oh, man. That really boggles the mind.
Well, so folks, we're going to keep it really loose today. We only have one thing we even discussing, and that's conspiracy theories. Our favorites, or just ones we want to talk about. So, what is your favorite conspiracy theory?
The one I've always been fascinated by, ever since I was a kid and first read about it, was D.B. Cooper.
Oh, yes.
The hitchhiker, he commandeered a plane in, I believe, 1971. They landed the plane. He demanded like $200,000 and a parachute. He jumped out over somewhere around Portland at some point. No one ever found him. There was never any trace of him. They never discovered who he was. And at some point, I want to say about 20-some years ago, they found some of the money, in some desolate wilderness area. And I just think it's fascinating that this guy just did it. And no one knows if he lived or if he died, but he just disappeared. They've never been able to find out who he was, or just this great mystery.
You said he demanded the money. Like, how did he get the money? Like, why did they give him... Did he, take the passengers hostage?
No, he got on the plane and then passed a note to the stewardess saying, I have a bomb in this briefcase. I want $200,000. They landed the plane at some point. He let all the passengers off except for the crew, and they brought the money on. Then they took the plane back off, and I believe he originally told them he wanted to fly to Mexico. But at some point, the rear baggage door or something on the plane was opened up, and he skydived out. But the stewardesses all say he was just the nicest, most polite person. I mean, he ordered a drink at some point after the hijacking, after everyone knew who he was, and he actually paid for the drink. It's just a fascinating story. And there was a story that came out a few years back that now some people think he was actually a woman.
Wow. So where does the name D.B. Cooper even come from?
Well, I believe what happened was when he bought his ticket and filled out his name, he signed it as Dan Cooper, I want to say. But at some point, a newscast or a news wire service or something mislabeled him as D.B. Cooper, and that's just the name that fit or
okay.
stuck with them because I think DB Cooper sounds a little bit cooler than just Dan Cooper.
Yeah, definitely.
You always got to go for the two initials in the last name when you can.
Yes, there you go.
I always thought it was fascinating too that I think there even was a movie made about this at some point of him parachuting off and actually running into Bigfoot at some point.
Was that a 70s made-for-TV movie? Because that sounds very 70s made-for-TV.
I think I did not. Unfortunately, I should have looked into this before we did the podcast, but that's something we can research and put something up on Twitter. But I believe there was a movie at some point like DB Cooper versus Bigfoot or something like that.
Fantastic. Do you remember the sitcom in the 90s, News Radio? Did you ever watch that?
Well, one of my favorite shows of all time.
Mine as well. Well, do you remember the boss guy? Didn't he end up being DB Cooper in the end?
I think that was the storyline that they put forth at the end. You're right.
What's that actor's name? Stephen Root, is it?
Yeah, he was in Office Space, too.
Yes, yeah, I really like him a lot. He's really good.
Yeah, that was a great show. It was only on for, 2 years, something like that?
Well, 2 or 3, maybe.
2 or 3, but it was a great cast on that show. Phil Hartman.
Well, even after Phil Hartman was killed, they brought in, was it John Lovitz to take his place?
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
He was really good on it, too, I thought.
Yeah, and the woman that played the main character woman.
Myra Tinney?
Tinney, yes. They have a great show.
I don't meet a lot of news radio fans.
Yeah, and I've met a couple people in my life, and the people you meet, people don't say, "Oh yeah, I remember that show was kind of good." People that are into it are really into it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's like you never saw the show, or it's the greatest show in the world.
I really like Dave Foley. I think he's quite funny.
Yeah. My favorite episode was the one where Stephen Root was running for some kind of office.
Yeah, I remember that.
They were rooting around trying to find out why is he running. And I think at the end it just turned out he was running to meet women or something. Yeah. Great show, though.
Was it Jimmy, his character?
I think so. Was it Jimmy or what was the name of the...
Jimmy James.
Jimmy James, yes. Yeah,
okay.
Yep.
All right, so I guess my favorite conspiracy theory would be the stuff surrounding Elvis. I'm a big Elvis fan, though I particularly kind of lean towards 68 comeback special to about 74. To me, that's kind of the peak of Elvis. I know some fans would disagree, but that's my Elvis, when he really became kind of the larger-than-life character that he would be known. But yeah, I'm a big Elvis fan, so I like the conspiracy theories about whether he's still alive or not.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I've always been a big Elvis guy too, and like you, I love the 68 comeback, black leather Elvis up there.
When the sideburns started getting thicker.
Yep.
And folks,
Yep.
I will go ahead and clear this up now, because people always make the stupid jokes, oh, Elvis died on the toilet, blah, blah, blah. I will go ahead and tell you right now, and it's a fact, Elvis did not die on the toilet. I don't know how. I think people just made up that rumor to disparage his legacy. But what happened was they were getting ready for another tour, and he was kind of wound up, nerves, excitement, or whatever. So him and his girlfriend at the time were in bed, and she was sleeping, and he just couldn't sleep. So he goes into the bathroom to read. So he goes in there, and he's reading or whatnot. And then the girlfriend noticed after several hours that he never came back to bed. So she got up to check on him and found him dead on the floor.
Yeah, I think the toilet thing was a National Enquirer thing.
Yeah, like he wasn't nude or any, he was in there just reading, just to pass the time. So it wasn't anything like they say.
Yeah, so have you ever been to Graceland, Rob?
I haven't, actually.
Oh, really? Wow, I've been there, I think, 3 times.
Oh, wow. Well, that's,
yeah, every American should go to Graceland.
I agree. I was kind of an hour and a half south of Atlanta, so I don't think I was quite as close to Graceland as you are in North Carolina. I could be wrong, though. My geography is terrible.
Yeah, I've just happened to be driving through the area a few times and said, how to stop at Graceland. And I actually stopped there once. I believe it was only a couple years after his death.
Wow.
And it was before the estate kind of took control of everything. So it was just every other store was some store selling cheap, chintzy knockoff Elvis souvenirs before his family kind of gained control of all the copyright stuff. And it was very, very low budget. Everything there was the tour. It was kind of like, and it's amazing over the years to see how much they turned that into an industry.
It's expensive now, too. Like $70 a person.
Really? I think last time I went, this was probably like 12, 13 years ago. I think it was, I want to say 30, 35. So yeah, it's getting in. Plus everything is separate now, I think, like the plane, the house, and everything.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it's different packages you buy for different parts of the tour.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to go through, though. What amazed me how small the house was.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, I pictured some kind of big, Gone with the Wind, antebellum mansion the first time I went there. But you go in the house, and he added on to it with the gymnasium stuff. But the house itself, it's just a small, modest, middle class Southern home. But like I said, every American should go to Graceland and witness it.
He bought it for his mother, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, so he probably had that in mind. I mean, I'm sure he could have afforded a giant mansion, but I mean, we are talking a house just for really his parents. So I can't imagine they would have needed a giant mansion.
Yep. But it's a real fascinating place. And like you, I've always been a huge Elvis fan. And yeah, I kind of, like you, I really liked like the comeback special in the early 70s when he first started out in Vegas. And I go back to the 1950s, pure primal rock and roll stuff.
Yeah, I quite often watch just live footage from around that time, or the 68 and on. And even though I tend to not like ballads or slow songs, I love his cover of My Way.
Yes, yep.
That is just fantastic.
Yeah, I always loved his version of Chuck Berry's song Promised Land.
Not sure I know that one. He recorded so much for so long.
Yeah, and Elvis is one of those guys that I'm always fascinated by, like him, and you look at like Gene Vincent from the 1950s, and you watch them now, and you try and put your mindset in the older parents who were watching that. And with him and Gene Vincent, you can both watch them, and you can think how parents saw this and thought, okay, this really is the devil's music. They're just both so with the, the greasy hair, and you just figured what that must have been a shock to see people see that back then.
It's funny, too, because Elvis, from all accounts, was such a nice man.
Everyone you talked to said he was just the sweetest guy in the world as far as just the way he acted toward people and everything, yeah.
Kind of slightly mama's boy.
Yep, yeah. But a fascinating thing, though. And you're right, getting kind of back to the conspiracy stuff, it is fascinating to think about that Elvis is still alive somewhere.
My favorite of the conspiracy theories involving Elvis being alive is the Jesse conspiracy. Are you familiar with this one?
Oh, with the twin.
Well, the twin, the guy claiming to be Elvis.
Yes, because when he was born, wasn't there? He was born with a twin, and the twin didn't live, right?
Yeah. Jesse was his twin brother that died at birth.
Yep.
Well, so folks, if you don't know what I'm referring to, around in the late 90s, there was this physician who kind of came out and said that he's Elvis's doctor, that Elvis was actually still alive, and that he'd been living under the name Jesse ever since he faked his death, and that everyone who knew Elvis's twin brother's name was Jesse, so that kind of made sense. But long story short, because it is a long story, they kept giving further evidence that this guy actually was Elvis, and he ended up taking 2 different DNA tests to prove whether or not he was actually Elvis. And the curious thing was, they were inconclusive. There was no proof that he actually was Elvis. But they both were conclusive that he was absolutely 100% related to Elvis.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so is this guy actually Elvis or some long-lost cousin, brother? But pictures of this Jesse fella started to surface, and he definitely looks like an aged Elvis.
Wow, whatever. Is he still, I guess, around today?
Well, he claimed he was going to make a comeback in 2002. That's when he was going to announce to the world that I'm still alive. But something happened. I didn't get that far into the details. I kind of did a refresher course before starting the pod. And for whatever reason, he decided not to make his self-known. But the last I heard, as far as 2010, he was still alive and still claiming to be Elvis, and actually did a recording of him singing. In the picture too, I mean, the guy does look so much like an aged Elvis, and people are like, oh, well, it's Photoshop, blah, blah, blah. But this was around 98 when this picture was taken, and I don't think Photoshop was to the level it is now back then. I mean, I guess it's possible.
No, I find that hard to believe, and I'm going to look it up as soon as we're done here, and maybe we can put the picture up on Twitter or something.
Yeah, there's several. And interesting too, he just kind of has shaggier, not long hair, but kind of close to long hair. And that's something I always found odd when people, with their Elvis sightings, that Elvis always looked like vintage Elvis. If Elvis actually did fake his own death, I don't think he'd be walking around looking exactly like himself with his pompadour, big sunglasses, and sideburns. He'd try to blend in.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. And I've always thought that was kind of fascinating to think about. If Elvis would come back, I mean, or even if he'd lived, what kind of music would he kind of turn his career around, hopefully, and get more back to his roots or something? Yeah.
I think he probably would have gone the country music route. I think he would have ended up a Johnny Cash or something to that effect.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. He probably would have done that, and maybe like Johnny Cash too, he sort of would have embraced by some of the younger rock guys and the alt-country people and stuff as sort of this, one of the forefathers of the whole movement.
Well, I think the reason country music in general loses a lot of people, we're not talking the pop country crap that's so popular now. I mean, the actual classic style country. It's simply the vocal style. A lot of those people, even though I dig some of those classic country artists, sound a little bit like Deputy Dog or something like that, with the cracking voice and all that kind of stuff. But then you take someone like Johnny Cash, where he doesn't sound like that. He just has a deep, good voice. I think that's why people are able to relate so much more to that than, say, something like Hank Williams, which I do like Hank Williams, but I can understand how the average person might be not a fan of his vocal style.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that old country music stuff. And what I always thought was fascinating, you look at those old country guys, people like Porter Wagner and Hank Williams and all those guys. I mean, you kind of look at them, and there was something beneath the surface, it seems like always lurking with those guys. They sang great little country songs, but they could hurt you. There's something, I don't know, there's like something very evil lurking below those
very
guys.
Dark. Well, I truly,
very dark, that's the right term I was looking for. Yeah,
they were the first rock stars. I don't care what people say. They were like Hank Williams drank himself to death, essentially. I mean, they were hard living, hard partying, and they were rock stars before there were rock stars.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you look at those pictures of Hank Williams when he died, and what was he, 27, 28?
Yeah, he was young.
And he looks like he's in his 60s.
He sure did, yeah. Yeah, I like Hank Williams. And I like Hank Williams the third. Not too into Junior, but I like, 1 and 3.
Exactly, yeah. Junior, I kind of skipped that, but Hank 3 has got some really good stuff out there, yeah.
Yeah, one of the best concerts I've ever seen, actually, was Hank 3.
I was supposed to see him down here once, but something happened, and he either had to cancel or he rescheduled, and I couldn't go or something. But I've never seen him, but I've always wanted to see him.
Yeah, I saw him at this big event on June 6, 2006. It was like this big thing at the Henry Fonda Theater, and Hank 3 did a concert, and Danzig got up and did 3 or 4 songs with him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was funny. Danzig's this little New Jersey guy, and he gets up there, he's like, "Oh, that's a mighty fine song, Hank." Come on, Glenn.
That's when he does his shows, I know he doesn't he does like half country, then he comes out and does half like the kind of metal stuff.
I know he was. I don't know if that's still the case.
Yeah, he's got some really cool stuff in his voice. I mean, he sounds just like his grandfather. Even looks like his grandfather more than Hank Jr. does.
Yeah, Hank Jr. and Hank 3. They may not still be, but I know they were estranged for a long time.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of weird family dynamics. I haven't read a lot about Hank. I have a biography of Hank Williams, which I never read, but there's a lot of strange family dynamics going on there.
So I'm jumping back to the Elvis and the different conspiracies. So what do you think? You think he might be alive?
I don't think so. A part of me really wants to believe it, but then another part of me thinks that, where he was at in his life, I'm not saying it was all done, he did it on purpose, but I kind of feel like he didn't want to go, but I kind of felt like maybe he wanted to get away from it at some point.
Colonel Parker worked him like an animal. That dude was a tyrant, essentially, and took so much of his money. Parker really was a scumbag.
Oh, he was. And the more you read about him and you look at those last few years of his life, he was just on tour constantly. Mm-hmm. And plus with the medications, with the doctor was, doing all that stuff to him. And it was a very horrible and a very sad way for him to end up, go the fast few years of his life.
If Elvis is dead, I absolutely blame not only Parker, but Dr. Nick as well. I think those two men are essentially the people that killed Elvis.
Oh, yeah, because you figure, I mean, back in the 60s, he was cranking out all those crappy movies. And then you look at kind of with the late 60s, the early 70s, when all like the country rock stuff started, with Graham Parsons and the Byrds and Emmylou Harris and all that stuff. I mean, if Elvis could have kind of latched onto that movement, yeah, it's really sad the way his career was manipulated in the way it was.
Have you ever heard the Elvis song Trouble?
I probably have, but I'm not familiar with it.
That song, anyone who hasn't heard it, go YouTube it. The lyrics are amazing. It's very, it's a great Halloween song almost. Are you sure you don't, are you looking for trouble?
Oh, yeah, yes, I have heard that.
And the chorus is because I'm evil. Like, all right. Yeah, I think it's from King Creole is the movie that comes from.
Yeah, there's always a couple of good songs that have nothing to do with the movies on those movie soundtracks.
He did a Western I've had on my backup list for a long time. I've been meaning to watch. A lot of people say it's actually really well done, but Flaming Star. Have you seen that?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that one, but there is the one that he did where he kind of tried to do like a spaghetti Western kind of thing, the one where he doesn't sing, Charo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's supposed to be, I've seen that a long time ago, and that was actually good. I think I've seen Flaming Star at some point, but I don't really remember it.
You said that one was called Charo?
Charo, and there's no songs in it. He doesn't sing, and it's kind of like, it's interesting because it's them trying to do a spaghetti Western.
I'm going to have to look for that one. So Charo, like the female singer?
I'm pretty sure that's the name, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think of that, but it's like the female singer.
Any other conspiracies or rumors or urban legends that you're particularly a fan of?
The one that I've always been kind of fascinated, be just because of the connection to the movie, is the people, the alligators living in sewers in the major cities.
Funny little story involving that. My parents took me to see that, the movie Alligator, as a kid, and I cried so hard when they killed the alligator.
Oh.
Which is funny because it was a monster. I mean, it wasn't a nice alligator. And I was crying when they came out of the theater, and I guess someone at the theater was like, oh, did it scare him too bad? Like, no, he's upset they killed the alligator.
Oh. That's a great movie, yeah.
That's the kind of little weirdo I was. And that's one of the only times I can recall as a child crying in a movie. I didn't cry at Bambi, didn't cry at E.T., but I sure cried when they killed that monster alligator.
Oh, I cried at first time I saw King Kong. When I first saw it on TV as a kid. And believe it or not, the first time I saw the original Karloff Frankenstein, I kind of got choked up at the end.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, when they burned the mill down on him, and he didn't really do anything.
So were there any actual proved cases of alligators in sewers, or is that strictly urban legend?
As far as I know, it's strictly urban legend. People will go down to Florida for vacation, buy a little alligator, bring it home, it gets big, they flush it down the toilet. I've never heard of anything, but you got it down in sewers. Sewers have always been creepy to me.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You just figure what's living down there.
Mm-hmm. In my hometown, the sewers were very small. Up until my teens, you could just pop open the manhole. They didn't start sealing the manholes until later, but you could just pop open the manhole and go down there. But they were only like maybe 3 foot high. And I'm slightly claustrophobic, so I was never able to venture anywhere because I couldn't handle that. It's not like in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles where you have like those 11-foot tall sewer tunnels and such.
Yeah, when we were kids, we were always kind of fascinated by sewers. It was kind of this unknown world below you. And I remember peering down some of them, was highly, disappointed in how big they were. Yeah, because we were always fascinated by that, the big 1950s movie Them, about the giant mutant ants in the Los Angeles sewers, where they had those huge sewers they were driving trucks through and thousands of army soldiers were running through. But our sewers were never that big.
No, yeah, I don't think you could get a bicycle through one of ours.
Yep.
Jumping back a little bit to Elvis, some things I meant to touch on but forgot I did. The things that initially got people thinking that he had faked his death, the first being the picture of his body at the funeral. People were convinced it was a wax figure. And if you've seen the picture, it's not very realistic looking, to be honest.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that. It was plastered all over the tabloids and everything. I mean, it'd be wonderful to think he's still alive, and it'd be cool, but I don't know. That's one I just have a little trouble buying.
It's wishful thinking. I'm not going to hold my breath.
Kind of goes back a little earlier, too, to the whole Jim Morrison death thing as he did. And I read a great quote from Ray Manzarek once. They asked him, do you think Jim's still alive? And he said, I don't think so. No one's been around to ask about his royalty checks lately.
That's so true.
Yeah.
There was a good one. It was Lisa Marie and Priscilla Presley were on some TV show a couple years back, and she was talking about Elvis, and she said slipped up and said something to the fact, is like, yeah, when I was talking to Elvis last week, and then just started backpedaling. I mean, I'm sure it was just a slip of the tongue. But
oh, man. You talk about feeding fuel on the fire, though.
Yep. All right, another good conspiracy theory. I don't know if it's conspiracy theory. So back in the day, for our younger viewers, apparently they're looking at us, our younger listeners, in the days before the internet, especially in small towns like the one I was from, rumors would start, and there would just be no way to discredit these rumors. Well, a popular one that went around my high school was that Blackie Lawless, the singer for Wasp, had killed himself, and that the album The Crimson Idol, which is a very dark, almost depressing album, was his suicide note. And in that album, it's a concept album, and the star of the concept does kill himself. So we were just convinced Blackie Lawless was dead. And then years later, when I found out he was alive because they released a new album, I was very surprised.
Wow. Yeah, I think there's always been, far as the music, seems to be a lot of conspiracy theories attached to it. Because growing up in the early, in the 70s, when I first got into the Beatles, I got into the whole Paul is dead thing.
Paul is dead, yep.
Yep, and you're always, looking for clues on all the albums, and, and you'd, read about something, you'd go try and play an album backwards, like here, Paul is dead, on Strawberry Fields or something. So, yeah, I think rock music has always kind of had been a fertile breeding ground for conspiracy theories. Yeah, and I guess it's kind of more of an urban legend thing, too, but there's always the ones when you were a kid that you heard about, like, there was one that I remember that went around our school once, and I guess it's kind of a famous one, where a woman or somebody comes home from work and their dog is choking, and they take the dog to the vet, and at some point the vet calls them back and says, get out of your house right now, I'll call the police, and the police come and find some burglar in the basement that has hand chewed off, and the dog was choking on the burglar's hand.
Oh, wow. I've never heard that one.
Really? That was one that went around our school. Then from what I've talked to other people, it's kind of like it was, kind of an urban legend in other areas, too. There's that one, and, of course, the one about the killer, the hook.
The hook hand. You definitely have heard that one.
Yeah. That's probably the most famous one, I would imagine. And it's kind of cool, too, to see how the hook actually worked its way into a lot of 70s slasher movies where it's the hook.
It did. And then those teeny bopper ones from the 90s, didn't the Urban Legends, I believe it was called.
Oh, yes. I never saw any of those, but there was a series of those, yeah.
Oh, that was a bad time for horror movies.
Yeah, I think like you had mentioned on one of the previous episodes, for the most part, there are some gems in there, but I just kind of blank right through the 90s.
Yeah, well, I'd say about 94 on. Whenever Scream came out, I think Scream was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, Scream destroyed the horror movie genre for years afterwards because just what it did and everyone trying to copy it.
So speaking of horror movies, I actually saw one last week I quite enjoyed. I wanted to mention. Dave the Mad Butcher recommended it to me. It's called Late Phases, and it's a werewolf movie. And I really haven't been into werewolf movies since I was a child because it's kind of hard to make a werewolf movie original, but I really liked this one a lot.
Oh, when was it made?
It's recent. I don't know the exact year, but just a couple years old tops. I think it just came out on DVD, so it may not even be a couple of years old yet. But
cool.
It kind of reminded me of Bubba Hotep, but serious.
Wow.
It was about a blind Vietnam vet who moves into a retirement community, and there's a werewolf that's kind of picking off the old people. and he has to fight back. So it also had some elements of Silver Bullet there. So kind of Silver Bullet meets Bubba Hotep, but serious. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of was Silver Bullet when you were describing it. But that is interesting because they haven't done a good werewolf movie in a long time.
Not life-changing, but I'd recommend watching it, especially if you like werewolves at all.
Oh, good. And it's always good when you can find something new.
Yeah, and the star, the Vietnam vet, is like this cranky, ornery, like unpleasant old man. And to me, that just adds to the likability of it. I like a non-traditional hero in the story.
Oh, yeah, interesting. I'll have to see if I can find that somewhere and watch it, check it out.
Well, I saw it on Netflix.
Oh, okay, I got Netflix, so I can definitely watch it then. Cool.
You seen anything good lately?
Actually, I saw one that I'm actually right in the process of writing a post on from my blog called Headless Eyes. It's from 1971. It always fascinated me because it had one of the greatest wizard video covers of all time in it. You can Google it again. I'll put it up on the Twitter. It's just really super low budget, filmed in New York City, and it was filmed by the father of the actress of Justine Bateman and her brother.
Jason.
Yeah, she was in Jason Bateman, yeah, and he went on to direct some Family Ties and stuff episodes, but it's this real great, gritty, low-budget New York City horror movie about this deranged artist who gets his eyeball scooped out, and in the process, he goes on this killing spree and starts scooping other women's eyeballs out and collects them in his freezer. It's really great stuff.
I look forward to reading that on the Oak Drive-In.
Yep. I probably, hopefully, get it up in the next few days.
Yeah, I watched another one recently that I'd never seen before, Atom Age Vampire.
Oh, that's a good one.
I just was always under the impression that it was kind of a campy, silly, like 50s B-movie. I didn't realize it's actually quite dramatic and a dark kind of movie.
Yeah, that's a real interesting movie. It's a real early example of Italian, horror, and it's got some cool stuff in it. I know there is several different versions of it going around, too. I think it's one of those ones they added footage for the American release and stuff, but that's one of my favorites, too.
It was quite good. I was impressed. I have it on one of those big movie box sets that you can get at Walmart. 50 movie pack.
Yeah, I actually found one a while ago, I think, at Target. I had a bunch of them, but I had to buy it. It's 250 movies.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for those things, though.
Yeah, this was a cool pack, because even though it's mostly older movies, it has a couple of the Paul, Naschy?
Oh, yeah, the Spanish, yeah, Paul Naschy, the horror, Spanish horror.
Yeah, it has a couple of his werewolf movies. It has the very first one, and then it has was it Werewolf versus Vampire Woman?
Oh, yeah, those are both really good ones. I love those movies, and those are really good ones to start off on if you've never seen them.
Yeah, I was impressed. I liked them both.
Cool.
I tell you, I did a little bit of shopping this week because I did some computer work for a buddy of mine, and so he got me an Amazon gift card as thanks. And so I ordered The Thing on Blu-ray. I got Just One of the Guys, which is one of my all-time favorite 80s teen movies. And then I bought two Japanese splatterpunk movies, Vampire Girl versus Frankenstein Girl and Robo Geisha.
Oh, cool. I've seen a couple of those, but that's one of those genres I've always wanted to explore more.
I do really like that splatter genre, like the Tokyo Gore Police, and
yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah,
I like that one, and of course Ichi the Killer, and though I like those. I think they're doing good quality stuff in that area.
Yeah. So was The Thing the new Blu-ray that just came out?
No, and that was the cheap. It was like $8.
Yeah.
I just wanted the movie.
That's a great movie, though.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, believe it or not, I'm not actually gigantic on extras. I like deleted scenes, but as far as making ofs and that sort of thing, I almost never watch them.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in that, though, because that's one of the first movies that I saw in the theater. It really kind of hit me what special effects were.
Or what they could do.
What they could do. I mean, the Rob Bottin stuff in that thing, you watch it today, and it's still amazingly just mind-blowing what he did in that film.
For sure. There was talks of a sequel, like an actual sequel proper for that, and they were going to explain the aged appearances of Kurt Russell and what's his name? The other guy that lived at the end. Keith David, or is it David Keith?
I know who you're talking about, and I can't think of which order the names go in.
Yeah, I always get him confused with there's another actor who played Elvis once, kind of a Southern actor. And one's Keith David and the other one's David Keith. I always get the two switched around. But they were going to explain their aged appearance by frostbite. That they were outside in the snow for a long time and they got frostbite on their faces, and that's why they look different. I don't know why that never came about, because I think that would have been very cool. I mean, that prequel was fair, but I would have much preferred the sequel.
Yeah. I mean, the prequel was kind of cool the way they kind of set up the props and did things so it matched exactly with what you saw later in the thing. But yeah, sequel would be interesting.
So, okay, here's a personality question. I'm assuming you've seen Blade Runner many times.
Yes.
Decker, replicant or not?
Replicant.
I agree. I feel he was a replicant as well. Maybe they'll finally address that in the sequel that's coming out.
Yeah, because have you ever read the book?
No, I haven't.
See, I read the book before I saw the movie, and the book, it doesn't explicitly say, but the book makes it a lot clearer that he is a replicant. And I think when I saw the movie, I kind of expected him to be a replicant, and even though it kind of left a lot of things open, I still believe he is a replicant.
I think so, too.
Yeah, so a sequel's coming out. Is it with Harrison Ford?
Yeah, Harrison Ford. What's that guy? I forget. One of those pretty boys that all the women are all into right now is, I guess, the young lead.
Is Ridley Scott doing it?
I believe so, yeah. Like, I think he's doing that and the Prometheus sequel, like, back to back.
Oh, wow. Man, Harrison Ford, he's pretty much gone back and revisited every famous role he ever did, didn't he?
That's true.
He's done Indiana Jones, he did Han Solo, now he's doing Blade Runner.
With his Han Solo, though, it really seemed to me... I mean, I liked Force Awakens, but it really seemed like he was calling it in. Like, I really didn't feel like he has any kind of love for the character or the franchise, and just kind of did it to do it and to kill him off. At least that's how I felt. Yeah,
the way it was written, it seemed a little kind of shoehorned in. And I can fully understand why they put him in there. They kind of had to make it where it would really get Star Wars people excited again and make it seem like this is something we can really get excited about again.
I like the prequels. I mean, yeah, they had their faults, but I still think they're good movies. I still enjoy them quite a lot.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I watched the first one, made it halfway through the second one, and never saw the third one. I don't know, maybe I'll go back and rewatch them Sunday, but they just fell totally flat.
Third one's the best one, in my opinion.
Oh, really? Okay, maybe I do need to watch it then.
And I should have mentioned this on the Unpopular Opinions pod, one of my most controversial opinions, the third one is my second favorite Star Wars movie.
Really?
Oh, I know. I could just hear the groans and ahs, from here. But yeah, I like Episode 3 a lot.
Well, what's your first, Empire?
Jedi.
This is interesting. We should do a Star Wars thing sometime, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I enjoyed the new movie, though.
The new one hasn't been out long enough, and I've only seen it once, so I can't really put it in the list yet. But as far as my list, it kind of goes in descending order. My favorites: Jedi, Episode 3, Empire, Episode 2, New Hope, and then Episode 1.
I do like Empire, probably New Hope. And the more I think, the new one, it had some things in it I really had problems with. I thought the whole Stormtrooper character was like, okay, you're some highly trained Stormtrooper, and all of a sudden, 10 seconds later, you're cracking jokes and flirting with a girl. That whole part didn't work for me at all.
I really need to watch it again, because I went in with a very negative opinion, because I am not a J.J. Abrams fan at all. So I went in expecting absolutely the worst. And so when I went in and it wasn't terrible, I was so pleasantly surprised. So now I need to go in with not expecting the worst and see how I feel about it.
Yeah, I thought it was better, a lot better than I expected it was. And I don't know, it kind of, I liked it. That's all I can say is I enjoyed it. I had some problems with some of the characters and stories, but it had a lot of really great old school special effects stuff in it. It had, CGI, of course, but had a lot of great prosthetic makeup stuff and model work and everything, which is always neat to see.
We've often, on almost all of the podcasts, touched on things that could have been. Have you ever seen that old audition footage or reading footage where Kurt Russell is reading for Han and William Catt is reading for Luke?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Can you imagine? Harrison Ford was fine, but Kurt Russell as Han Solo. Oh, I can't even imagine how good that would have been.
Yep, yep. That's one of the great what ifs because he would have been. You talk about someone that, especially right at that time period when that movie was made, he would have been perfect for that role.
Kurt Russell is actually my all-time favorite actor.
Really, he's right up near the top for me. No matter what the movie, I will watch him in something, whatever he's in.
Exactly, and even if it's not the best movie, he is always great, no matter what. And he's so versatile. Like, he can play a super tough guy. And then that movie where the cop was stalking his wife, he played a nerd really well. He does comedy really well. Like, I watch Overboard every freaking time that I see that movie on TV. I will watch it if it's on.
I love that movie. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good comedian. I mean, he's just all around great.
Captain Ron.
Captain Ron, I like that one too.
Yeah, yeah. Captain Ron, Captain Ron. I love that movie. Yeah, yeah. And he's great though.
Yeah, I watched Captain Ron again last summer, and I love that thing about Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, yeah. He is good. He did this really good one. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I believe it was probably back in the '70s. One of his first movies, a made-for-TV movie where he played Charles Whitman, the sniper. I think it's called The Tower or The Deadly Tower. Charles Whitman, the guy who shot all those people from the tower in Austin, Texas, like in '62. He's great in that movie.
I do love his Elvis.
Yep, Elvis is great, great. Which I think just came out on Blu-ray, I think.
I really like that movie. I highly recommend that one. And I like, too, that it really only focuses on the positive. If it came out nowadays, it would have just focused on the negative aspects of Elvis's life. But I like that it just really hit the positives and just kind of faded out toward the end.
Yeah, it was good. Now, have you seen Bone Tomahawk yet?
No, I didn't even know that was out.
That's really good. Yeah, I think it was on Amazon streaming, I believe. But that's an excellent movie.
And that's a Western, right?
Yeah, kind of a Western horror cannibal thing.
Wow. And is he the star?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, I believe it came out maybe 2 years ago, I want to say, but it hits
that long. Wow.
Really good, really good.
I like that Kurt has kind of come out of, because he was semi-retired for a while. I like that he started doing movies again here and there.
Yeah, I think he's going to be in the new Guardians of the Galaxy, isn't he?
Yes, he is. I think he's playing Star-Lord's father.
Father, yes, which ought to be fun.
Yeah. It's strange, man. I guess it's just a sign of getting old. These people like Kurt Russell that I still think of in my mind as like this young, virile action star is playing dads now. It's just so strange to me.
Yeah, well, I grew up with Kurt Russell. I went to the theaters and saw him in all that Disney stuff.
That's
Computer
right.
Wore tennis shoes, and now you see him, now you don't, and what World's Greatest Athlete and all that stuff. And yeah.
No, I was saying earlier that I didn't care that much for special features, but I like the deleted scenes. There's a really good deleted scene on Escape from New York with him and his buddy where they get caught pulling that heist. That's a good scene.
Yes, that is a great scene, and that's a really good movie too. That's probably one of my favorite Kurt Russell and John Carpenter movies together.
Oh, for sure. Great soundtrack too. And you would know, you went and saw Carpenter play live.
Yeah, I got to see John Carpenter in concert a couple months ago, and I don't know if he's still doing the concert tour, but I would highly recommend it if he ever comes to your neighborhood to come see him, to our listeners. He puts on a great show. It's like, John Carpenter's a rock star now.
The theme song for Big Trouble in Little China. I'm sure you remember that one.
Yep.
When I was a kid, just, those things you think as a kid, John Carpenter's singing voice, to me, sounded like Kurt Russell. And then the higher pitched sounding voice, to me, sounded like his sidekick. What was his name, Wang?
Yes, yep.
In my mind, that was them two singing that song in the credits.
Yeah,
I was surprised later in life. I was like, wait a second, that's not them.
Yeah, but this great stuff. So I got to ask you, since we're on this little Kurt Russell thing right now, Escape from L.A.
I like it.
I didn't like it at first, but I'm kind of liking it. I saw it again recently. It's on Netflix to watch, and I saw it again like a couple weeks ago. But I think if you go into it with the right frame of mind, that I don't know if this is what they set out to do, but it's a great, entertainingly stupid movie.
Yeah, and except for I don't like the basketball scene. I never liked the basketball scene. But
Yeah.
other than that, I thought it was a good movie. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I love the whole part with the Bruce Campbell and the
Of
plastic
course.
surgeon and the old with the Beverly Hotel and stuff there. But yeah, I do. I liked it a lot better than when I first saw it at the theater. And plus, it's always cool to see Pam Grier.
Going in, preset mindset, it can affect how you judge a movie. And then when you go in later, you can see it again without that mindset and have a totally different point of view. A good example of that was The Mother of Tears.
Yes.
I thought that was horrendous the first time I saw it. I was like, what did he do? And I couldn't stand it. But then I went back. I was like, I'll give it another shot. And then when I went back, I was like, this isn't so bad. I don't know what I had such a mad on about. And now I kind of enjoy it.
Exactly, because same thing with me. When I first saw it, I did not like it. But then I was somewhere at some video store somewhere, and they had a pile of DVDs for $5, and one of them was Mother of Tears. I thought, well, I'll get it for $5. And I rewatched, and I thought it was a lot better.
Those goth witches are extremely cheeseball, but besides that, I thought it was enjoyable, and I really like when the monkey chases her through the museum. I love that scene. I like mean, evil monkeys, so...
Oh yeah, evil monkeys are always cool. Yeah, but it's something that is a lot better than I remember it being. And jumping back a little bit to when we had like the what ifs or the what if this had happened. I know Carpenter and Russell talked about doing a third escape movie at some point. It was called Escape from Earth.
Wow.
Where they just turned Earth has just turned into this huge, giant, off-planet prison camp, and the entire population has moved to Mars or some other distant planet. And they have to send Kurt, of course, has to go back to Earth to find something.
That would have been cool. I wish they'd done that.
Yeah, I read an interview somewhere with either Russell or Carpenter, and they talked about it, but of course it never even got beyond the initial planning stages. But yeah, it would have been cool to think about, though.
Speaking of what ifs, I'm assuming you've seen the Masters of the Universe movie from the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know much about the story of that, how there was a sequel in the works?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, there was a sequel in the works. They actually started designing sets, costumes, everything. I mean, they were very close to making it happen. And then something with the rights fell through, and it just changed last minute. And they reworked the script just a tiny amount, and it became the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Cyborg.
Really?
When it first came out, too, in TV guides, it was actually listed as Masters of the Universe Part 2, Cyborg.
Wow. That's really interesting.
I thought so too. Like, supposedly there's a deleted scene in Masters of the Universe where He-Man goes into the basement of Castle Grayskull, and there's all this old school Earth memorabilia, stuff from World War II and such, so suggesting that Eternia is actually Earth in the future.
Oh.
I don't know how that ties into the sequel, but, there you go, folks.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, so the rights got messed up somewhere, huh? You had to leave it to the lawyers to screw stuff up.
And I don't know if you've seen Cyborg, but that is an exceptionally violent, dark movie. I don't know how that would have been a Masters of the Universe film.
I haven't, if I saw it, I haven't seen it in a long time. A lot of the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies I watch, but they kind of merge together for me.
Yeah, I was never, not knocking Van Damme, but my friends went nuts over him, but I just was never really that into Van Damme. He just never captured my martial arts fancy, I guess. I think by that time I was already starting to delve into, like, the Hong Kong cinema, like the Yuen Biaos, Sammo Hung, and Jackie Chan, of course. So I was already discovering those type people.
Exactly, yeah. I remember I saw a couple of them at the theaters, but I probably could not tell you the titles if you were going to pull my fingernails out with pliers. But yeah, you got me kind of interested in Cyborg now just because of the connection to He-Man, so I'll probably have to go back and rewatch that at some point. Every time we do a podcast, you give me more stuff to watch, Rob.
Oh, same here. To me, the late 80s, or through the 80s, into the 90s, well, that's kind of one of my sweet spots for everything in life. But with the Hong Kong martial arts films, I really particularly like that time. I mean, I like Jackie Chan a lot, but I like his two buddies a little more, Yuen Biao and Sammo Hung. Those two guys made some great movies.
Yeah, especially Sammo Hung. There's some wonderful stuff there, yeah. And there's just so much of that stuff out there. I mean, the amount of movies those guys made is incredible.
One of my all-time favorite, not only martial arts films, but just films in general, is a kung fu comedy western Yuen Biao and Sammo Hung did. It's called, you can sometimes find it as Millionaire's Express and sometimes Shanghai Express. But I highly recommend that one. Really good, really funny. Like, I mean, they just nailed the comedy. And it's a western, too, that's even funnier. A western set in China.
Wow. Now, was that kind of what basically did Jackie Chan remake that when they made the Shanghai Express here?
No, they're totally different.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if maybe he took the title and reworked it a little bit and they remade it for American audiences or not.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because two of the bad guys in that movie are Richard Norton, who you may know. He was an Australian martial artist that I guess lived in Hong Kong, because he played a bad guy in a lot of Hong Kong cinema, and an early Cynthia Rothrock appearance, if you are familiar with her work at all.
Oh, yeah. I love Cynthia Rothrock stuff.
Yeah, both her and Norton were both villains in this movie.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to see if I can find that one too. Man, you've got a big list going for me today, Rob.
I bet it's out of print, but it's a really good movie. That's when, as soon as it came out on DVD, I snatched that one right up.
Oh, cool. I'll have to see if I can find that one. Yeah, I grew up, not grew up, but I remember just seems like the Cynthia Rothrock stuff was constantly on like Cinemax and Showtime late night.
Yeah, it's that late 80s, early 90s time period. You know, that sweet spot, that Rob sweet spot in that time period where just such great stuff came out all around.
Yeah, I actually got to meet her some years back at a convention, and she was really, really nice.
I saw her, let's see, I was at Halloween Horror Nights, I think it was 2 years ago, and she was in line in front of me.
Yeah. It's amazing when you see her how, I don't want to say like small, but just how kind of compact she is.
Yeah, she's very short.
Yeah, probably kicked your ass in different ways, though. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I didn't bother her because I live in Hollywood. I see celebrities here and there, and I've just never felt the urge to bother people, especially when they're out doing their own thing. And just not something I would do.
Oh, yeah, that's great. That's the way, even though I haven't had that opportunity much, I have seen certain people. And if you're at a convention, fine, that's what you're there for. But if you're doing your life stuff, you deserve some peace and quiet.
Like, just off the top of my head, I've run into Tarantino, Gene Simmons, Mia Kirshner, Bill Murray, and Tony Todd.
Oh.
Tony Todd's the closest one. I almost said hello to Tony Todd, but in the end, I just left him alone. We were at the 99-cent store.
I had a friend that met Murray up in New York. It was one of those things where, like, the elevator opened up and my friend was waiting for the elevator and Bill Murray stepped out and he goes kind of like, oh, and Bill Murray said, well, aren't you going to say nothing? He was very approachable and was really nice, he said. Yeah, but it's always... You don't want to go up to those people because you don't want to destroy the illusion you might have of them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's happened, I've heard.
Yeah.
It was interesting when I saw Gene Simmons. It was when Tower Records was still open. And he was just there by himself looking at magazines and just kind of walking around. Like, it almost looked like he wanted to be approached.
Wow.
Like, almost like, oh, talk to me. But I didn't. I left him alone just in case.
Oh, have you ever seen, did you ever see Lemmy because I hear he used to be out and about in Hollywood.
Surprisingly, no, never saw Lemmy.
Oh.
I've seen Ron Jeremy a couple of times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the first Halloweens I was out here, Ron Jeremy was actually trying to get into a club, and he didn't want to pay because he's Ron Jeremy, and the guy at the door was kind of like, not giving him a super hard time, but not exactly just, oh, come on in, Mr. Jeremy.
Wow, trying to get comped in because you're Rob Jeremy.
He's a funny guy. Like, I've heard that he's so cheap that when he flies, he just uses a trash bag. Like, he doesn't even have luggage. He just throws his clothes in a trash bag and goes. I don't know how true that is, but if it is true, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good story, though.
We were talking about the Kurt Russell and William Catt and how different Star Wars would have been. I was actually in line at a Walmart recently, and folks, if you around the country, you don't live in LA, you just don't know, Walmarts are fairly scarce out here. Like, we have to drive, 30, 45 minutes, sometimes even an hour to get to a Walmart here. And so when you do find a Walmart, they are always slam packed. So I was at a Walmart in line, a very long line. I was just thinking about that Kurt Russell, and as I often do when I'm in line, and I was thinking about Star Wars and how different it would have been had he been in it. And I just started recasting the whole movie just in my brain. I just thought it was funny. I like to do that sometimes as like a fan casting. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, probably. I can't come with anything off the top of my head. So who'd you come up with for like, Princess Leia?
Well, I was just kind of thinking just a dream cast, like if I could just do anyone from any time period. And for Leia, I would have liked Kari Werher. That may not be a name that everyone knows right off the top of their brains, but one of my all-time favorite actresses. And I would have liked to have seen her as Leia. Are you familiar with her at all?
I've heard of her, yeah. I can't really place her in anything right now, though. But it sounds like an interesting choice. It's neat that you pick, not any of the obvious ones from that era.
Oh, and get this. For my choice, I was like, well, Lando. I would have put Bruce Campbell as Lando.
Ooh, that would have been really good.
And before people start having a fit, I do like Billy D. Williams, and I actually would have kept Billy D., but I would have moved him to the Liam Nub character. I would have had Bruce Campbell being Lando and Billy D. being Liam Nub.
Wow.
But he would have been Billy D. and all smooth, not a greasy mousefish-looking guy.
That is interesting. Wow. Yeah, and to get Bruce Campbell in the Star Wars universe, that would have really been cool.
Like, can you just imagine him as Lando? Like that scene where Han meets Lando at Cloud City. Imagine Kurt Russell and Bruce Campbell, you dirty swindler. It would be great stuff.
Yeah, it would have been great. Yeah, Bruce. Yeah. And man, you got me thinking about that now.
Do think about it. Fan castings are fun. That was something when I first started doing my site. It was like, yeah, that's going to be a regular feature. Because I actually did a fan casting of like a new Batman series. This was pre-Batfleck. But yeah, it just ended up being a lot more work than I'd anticipated. So I don't think I ever did another fan cast post.
Oh, that's interesting. That might be something we could do for a future episode.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that Kurt Russell is one of your favorites. Who would you say is your favorite actor?
Wow.
Top five.
Yeah, well, actually, this is going to sound maybe kind of strange, but probably the favorite actor I go back to time and time again is Warren Oates. Strange choice, I know, but I've always just loved him in everything I've ever seen. And I probably got to go with, most of my people are probably going to be somewhat old school people, but I do, like I said, I love Warren Oates. I've always been a huge fan. I think Peter Cushing.
Yeah, Peter Cushing
is incredible. And just, it's a list that kind of varies a lot, but probably those are in my top two. Kind of maybe a not too exciting list, but it's, the guys I like.
Yeah, well, I'm with mine too. I'm always, like we were saying earlier with Kurt, even if it's a movie you don't dig, he's great in it. And that's kind of how I judge people, not necessarily by their body of work, just by them. So mine kind of goes Kurt Russell, Bruce Campbell, Vincent Price, Clint Eastwood, and then Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds, that's a really interesting choice. Burt's done some really good stuff.
I love him in everything he does.
Yeah, he did that really interesting movie. What was it? Where he played the father of that kid. It was a Frankenstein and Me or something.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, I saw it a long time ago and really liked it. And I probably should know more about it, but I don't. But yeah, I love his early 70s, kind of like pre-Smokey stuff. Things like, Gator and White Lightning and things like that.
Yeah, almost exploitation film-esque.
They are. They're very, very, kind of low budget, with, nice and sweaty stuff with car chases. And yeah, I really like him. He's kind of one of those people that even, he's got a lot of bad movies, but he's always kind of interesting to watch. And I thought probably his best role for me was in Boogie Nights.
Yeah, he was excellent in that.
Yeah.
I mentioned Dave the Mad Butcher so much on this freaking podcast lately. He's almost like the third unofficial co-host. But he sent me a Burt Reynolds movie called Heat that I really, really enjoyed. Have you seen that one?
Yes.
It takes place in Vegas.
Yes, I do remember that one. Yeah, he made a whole series of kind of those really great, like there's one called Malone. It's really good. From that period, he made a whole kind of like these little gritty little detective movies.
Clint Eastwood, I put on the list. I'm not actually that big a fan of a lot of his movies, but the movies I like with him in it, he's just excellent. Of course, I love all his westerns.
Before Unforgiven came out, someone was talking to me about it, and they said, "Oh, man, I don't know. Do you think that's going to be any good?" I go, "Man, it's going to have Clint Eastwood on a horse shooting people.
So it's good.
That's like an automatic 3 stars right there." And it's probably going to be 4 stars.
Are you familiar with the Batman graphic novel, The Dark Knight Returns?
Yes.
I heard, don't know how true this is, through the comic vine, that his appearance in that older Bruce Wayne was kind of based on Clint Eastwood.
Oh, cool.
So that's always kind of been a fan dream, that they would make The Dark Knight Returns into a live-action movie and have Clint play the aged Bruce Wayne.
That would be great.
With Batfleck and the really good animated Dark Knight Return movies. Yeah, I don't think that'll happen. And Clint's getting up there in years now.
He is, yeah. Speaking of Clint, have you ever seen the Beguiled?
No.
It's a really good one from the 70s. It takes place in the Civil War, and he's a wounded northern soldier who gets taken in by this girls, kind of like a girls' like boarding house or school, academy down south, and they kind of, bring him back to health, and he kind of starts messing with some of the girls, and he pits them against one another. It's just very great, like kind of psychological, very creepy Southern Gothic story.
I think Clint might have had a lot of love for the South, because if you remember in Outlaw Josie Wells, he actually played a rebel soldier.
Oh, yeah. I think Clint always you can tell he kind of had an affinity for the South and that whole feeling of, what are you doing on my land kind of thing.
Outlaw Josie Wells is a good one.
Yes, that is an excellent one. And I think, strangely enough, it was released during the bicentennial year of 1976, and it was I thought it was just like the perfect movie for the American bicentennial.
My favorite Clint Eastwood Western is probably High Plains Drifter.
Yes.
I know a lot of people Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which, that is a fantastic movie, but High Plains Drifter, just something about it, that's my favorite.
Yeah, well, it's got the whole ambiguity through it, like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? It's a very different Western.
I've heard a lot of argument as to is it a horror movie or not, and I think it's borderline. I think there's definitely some supernatural elements to it.
Yeah, it definitely has. It's definitely not a standard Western, and I think there is, if not horror elements, there is, whether you want to call them gothic or supernatural elements, but there is something lurking in that movie.
What is your favorite of the Dollars trilogy?
It's easy to say Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which I love, but I actually love For a Few Dollars More.
That ding, ding, ding. That's my favorite as well.
Yeah, I love Lee Van Cleef in the movie.
I'm having deja vu. Did we talk about this already on a pod?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I love Lee Van Cleef, but I just prefer him as a hero. He made a good villain in For The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but I just would rather him be a good guy like he was in For a Few Dollars More.
Yeah, that's a great movie. That scene where he strikes the match on Klaus Kinski's back.
Yeah. Klaus Kinski, you talk about a guy who was made to play bad guys. That is just the face of a villain.
He is, yeah, and you talk about somebody we could do a whole podcast episode on Klaus Kinski, I think.
Yeah, we probably could. Have you ever seen him play a non-villain, has he ever played a good guy?
Man, even when he's not playing a non-villain, like maybe someone in Fitzcarraldo or something like that, he's always deranged in some way. But you could put him as the guy next door, the nice neighbor, and it'd still be deranged. He always brings something to his role that puts him a little off kilter.
He's got psycho face. I think that's what it is. He's just got a case of resting psycho face.
He does, yeah. And he made that, the one, went under a couple different titles. I think it's best known under Creature. Kind of the Alien ripoff he did. Yeah,
I'd forgotten about that one. I used to love the video cover for that one. Isn't it the kind of that alien face and the starry sky?
Yep. And it came out real briefly on DVD a couple years ago, but again, it was one of those things we mentioned earlier where it turns out the rights weren't really with, I think the director, William Malone, put it out, but they had to recall them all right away. But it's a great little movie just to watch, another deranged Klaus Kinski role.
All right, folks. Well, that about does it for this episode of the Wacky World Drive-In.
Yeah, everybody, thanks for tuning in. And remember, the thing about conspiracy theories and urban legends, there's always a grain of truth in all of them.